The Supreme Court today reserved judgment in the suit by the federal government against the 36 state governors seeking full autonomy for the 774 local governments in the country. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimale here in Abuja. Yesterday, Channels Television's initiative to finding solutions to some of the nation's nagging challenges, one of which is security, was one thing that we focused on as a nation. We're celebrating and marking Democracy Day. That's the 25th year since the return to democratic rule after the military went back to the barracks. And of course, Channels Television determined in our minds to looking at solutions in our security problem. Let me allow you, for those of you who did not catch it, or perhaps we've not been able to find what the essence of that security summit is like. These are some of the solutions that we think our lawmakers, the executive arm of government and security agencies need to think deeper about. And we can no longer beat around the bush. Let us take the bull by the horn and fix the security challenges once and for all. Let me remind you of what really happened yesterday.
It's not about the law. There are three fundamental things.
Channels Television hosted the first-of-a-kind security summit to proffer solutions to the nation's security challenges. Those in attendance included representatives of security agencies led by the Chief of Defense Staff, lawmakers and experts. Governor Dauda Lawal of Zamfara State joined the conversation virtually. The conversation started with a panel session where the speakers reeled out their concerns about the country's security situation.
There are 370,000 policemen, so there is issue of lack of manpower, there is issue of inadequate funding, there is issue of capacity, there is issue of information sharing, there is issue of intelligence, there is issue of partnership, there is issue of community-based policing, where the communities will now partner with the police and let us know exactly what we want.
We've got security votes that have been part of our entire sort of democratic system. Ask the politicians, ask the governors, what have they done with those security votes? And we've seen that some of them have been conduit pipes.
One of the easiest things the president can do, for example, is to give out an executive order, making it a punishable act if an intelligence is not shared. Right now, if you don't share an intelligence, you've not committed any crime.
Parliament is also looking critically at the state police bill. It is something that we are working at seriously to ensure that same is passed as soon as possible. We've had issues. Some states say they don't want state police. Some say they want.
The Zamfara State Governor aligned with the calls for state police, stressing that the security situation in the country cannot improve without the prime input of state governors.
If I have my own military, if I have my own police or civil defense in Zamfara State, believe me, I don't need to look anywhere or elsewhere. I'll be in full control, and I know where the issues are, and I'll be able to face these issues head on. But like I said, I don't have control over the security outfits.
He also aligned with the result of Channels TV's online poll, which largely attributed to delayed progress in addressing insecurity to lack of political will.
If there is no political interference in all these things, believe me, it's just a matter of time. We will be able to solve all these security challenges in the country. You know, he who wears the shoes knows where it hurts. And that is why I'm telling you there's so much political interference. These guys should be allowed to do their work. They're professionals.
The Chief of Defense Staff spoke on the progress made so far in tackling insecurity, especially in the northern part of the country.
I was the theater commander in Operation Hatinkai for 19 months. By the time I left there, we had over 75,000 that have surrendered. Now we have over 120. To tell you that we are succeeding, we take out over 600 bandits, terrorists, insurgents on a weekly basis. Where my men have the greatest challenge is IEDs, because there are no road infrastructure.
He also addressed concerns around the security threats in the southeast.
We have repeatedly complained about the issue of Simon Epa. He is in Finland The Finnish government are giving him all the support, and he's doing what he's doing. Comments he's making, people are being killed, and nothing is being done. And this is democracy. If the European Union is the one supporting democracy, and this is happening, and they're not taking action, then they don't mean well for Nigeria.
My name is Sheila Kujobi.
It was indeed a town hall where members of the audience had the opportunity to engage the panelists on critical areas.
We, as a people of Nigeria, we've done our best to keep our nation together.
It is expected that solutions proffered at this town hall would be adopted by relevant stakeholders to chart a new course and trigger the desired change in the security situation in the country.
All right, there you have it. That's just some of the outcomes from that security summit. Hoping we're no longer talking about what are the solutions. We've heard the solution, and those who are directly involved have said to the nation what the problems are. We're hoping the right persons will take the challenge and make the right decision. Let's check out some of your political roundup stories now.
The Supreme Court has reserved judgment in the suit of the federal government against the 36 state governors seeking full autonomy for the 774 local governments in the country. Justice Garba Lawal told the parties in the matter that they will be communicated to once the judgment is ready. He announced the reservation of the judgment after the 7-man panel of the Apex Court had taken adoption of processes filed by the Attorney General of the Federation, Mr. Lateef Fagbemi, on behalf of the federal government and those of the 36 state governors. Meanwhile, Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court Abuja has fixed July 17 for judgment in a suit of the Labour Party governorship primary election in Edo State between Anderson Asemota and Olumide Akpata. Justice Omotosho fixed the date after taking arguments from both parties. In the suit, Mr. Asemota is praying the court for an order directing INEC to recognize and publish his name as the duly elected governorship candidate of the Labour Party in Edo State. He says he emerged from the primaries conducted by the Labour Party under the leadership of Lamidi Ababa, who at the time of the election, held on the 22nd of February, was the acting national chairman of the party. Also, the Federal High Court in Abuja has adjourned the arraignment of the former governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, on an alleged money laundering case instituted against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, to June 27, following an agreement by the councils to the two parties. A new date, June 27, had earlier been reportedly fixed for arraignment at the instance of the EFCC councils. At the resumed hearing, a counsel to Governor Bello, Adeola Adedigbe, told the court that the EFCC lawyers approached the lead counsel to the former governor, Abdul Wahab Mohammed, that the June 13 date would not be convenient for them to proceed with the arraignment. He adds that all parties agreed at the meeting that June 13 was not convenient and June 27 would be more convenient to produce the defendant in court. As part of activities to mark his first anniversary in office, which coincided with Democracy Day celebrations, Governor Abba Kabiri Yusuf, in a statewide address, threatened to deal with those planning to brew trouble in Kano State. According to him, anybody found guilty of these offenses will face the full wrath of the law.
We are, by this medium, warning them to stay clear of our peaceful state, or else the long arm of the law will soon catch up with them.
The Oyo State Governor, Seyi Makinde, has signed into law the executive bill establishing the Oyo State Mobilization Agency for Socio-Economic Development, noting that his administration will continue to prioritize economic development to solve major challenges in the state. While signing the bill passed by the House of Assembly into law at the governor's office in Ibadan, Governor Makinde also announced the appointment of a former commissioner for education in the state, Dr. Moruhukola Thomas, who is a special advisor on socio-economic development, as the Director General of the agency.
We must create frameworks to harness our potential through mobilization, sensitization, and advocacy. So this agency is a key part of the framework.
Thank you so much indeed, everyone, for staying with us. So let's tell you that in that tussle over local government autonomy, Justice Liman Mohammed of the Federal High Court, let me take you to Kano first and foremost, and let me allow you to know what Justice Mohammed in the Federal High Court in Kano said in respect of the dethroned Emir Aminu Ado Bayero, which the court said has jurisdiction to be heard. A case filed by the kingmaker Aminu Babadan Angudi is that of a fundamental human rights case in the Emirate Tussle. Development comes days after a court ordered substituted service on Bayero and 4 other emirs in a case filed by the Kano state government to restrain them from parading themselves as emirs. It's becoming so interesting as the festivities are coming. The Kano State Police Command has banned durbar activities, which is part of Salah celebrations ahead of Eid al-Kabir. And the Commissioner of Police in the state, Hussein Gumal, noted that the ban is imperative to keep the peace and serenity of the state. He advised that worshippers should conduct their normal Eid prayers at the various designated praying grounds. So as is the tradition. The governor, Abba Kabiru Yusuf, in the statewide address, has threatened to deal with those planning to brew trouble in Kano State. And I'll take you now to the Supreme Court, where the Apex Court has reserved judgment in the suit of the federal government against the 36 state governors seeking full autonomy for the 774 local governments in the country. Justice Garba Lawal told the parties involved in the matter that they would be communicated to once the judgment is ready. He announced the reservation of the judgment after a 7-man panel of the Apex Court had taken adoption of processes filed by the Attorney General of the Federation, Mr. Lateef Fagbemi, on behalf of the federal government and those of the 36 state governors. At the proceedings today, the AGF asked the court to grant all the relief sought by the federal government in the suit. Now, it looks like yesterday, those who were born at about that time, they call them Gen Zs or what now. 25 years ago, Nigeria returned to democratic rule, and you will remember that moment, the 29th of May, 1999, historic moment in the history of Nigeria where the then General Abubakar Abdulsalami handed over the reins of affairs of this country to the then elected president of the Federal Republic, Olusegun Obasanjo. Nigeria has since then had 7 elections to elect new president in the general elections, and we have 25 years of unfettered democracy. A lot of people might wonder, what is this unfettered? Well, for those who know or lived their lives or who saw the struggles of pro-democracy activists on how incessant that the military men had come and take over power, you will know that when we say unfettered, it meant that Nigerians enjoyed unbroken, uninterrupted democratic dispensation, because it happened virtually every other 2-3 years when military government become in and out. In almost our 60 years, almost half of that of our existence as an independent country as being that was led by the military. They spent almost 33 years or so being in power. And so some of the pictures that you see right there, illustration telling you of the faces that have left this country, and we've had 7 different elections. But the president, Bola Tinubu, has been promising that he will ensure that the tenets of democracy are strengthened. He said this early in the morning yesterday. He also mentioned it later at a dinner which was hosted by him at the presidential villa. Let me allow you to listen to his promise to keeping and sustaining democracy in Nigeria. Take a listen to him.
As a president of this nation, I am morally and constitutionally bound to preserve this precious form of governance. I vow to do my utmost best to protect your rights, freedom, and liberty as citizens of Nigeria. Even more than that, I pledge to do whatever is necessary to cement democracy as our way of life.
That's a portion of President Bola Tinubu's early morning broadcast on Democracy Day. Let's speak to one of those who were in the forefront, either fighting for them in the courtroom or himself carrying placards or being beaten or sent to jail. You will say that indeed that those who fought literally for our democracy. Mr. Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, joins us live from Lagos. Congratulations, I must say, for those of you who were in the forefront, who fought, who literally, and some times ago, I listened to your wife, who was talking about how he spent several nights having to take care of the children while you were in prison fighting for Nigeria's democracy. These stories sounds unbelievable, but some of these stories are true. Some of the stories of how the military locked Nigerians, journalists, activists, those who were sent on exile, those who were locked under the ground just because we're fighting for democracy. And here we are today. Congratulations, Mr. Femi Falana. On behalf of every Nigerian and all of those who are in the forefront for fighting for Nigeria's democracy, let me begin by asking you, 25 years since the return to democracy and President Bola Tinubu at the helm of affairs, what is said? What do you make of those comments?
Years of uninterrupted civil rule. It's not yet democracy. We're still struggling to put democracy in place. I listened to the president's speech, and I was particularly moved where he lauded or praised the journalists, a group of journalists for contributing to the struggle for the restoration of democracy in the country. But as a lawyer, I also became worried because right now, some journalists are languishing in custody, defending a couple of them because they were alleged to have defamed certain powerful people in the society. For me, I find this contradictory because by 1983, for the second coming of the military, in the case of Otto Nwankwo, incidentally, the president, mentioned the name of Otto Nwankwo as one of the heroes of democracy. In the case of Otto Nwankwo and the state, the Court of Appeal took advantage of that case to annul seditious publications, the provisions of the criminal code relating to sedition. And the court made the point there that Nigerians must resist any attempt by the government to erode the democratic rights that Nigerians have fought for, particularly freedom of expression. That this was a law invoked by the colonial regime to silence Nigerians, and that under a democratic government, that must not be allowed. And those in government, if they feel too, if they feel too irascible and intolerant of criticisms, they should either plug their ears with cotton wool or leave the government, because criticism is indispensable in a democratic society. For us to go back now using Cyber Crimes Act to harass Nigerians. And my wife was telling me this morning, Femi, the Cyber Crimes Act is worse than Decree 4. Because Decree 4 was only there to criminalize not telling the truth. This time around, defaming people has been criminalized. But what is worse, Sheung, is that the law was amended in February this year to remove cyber stalking, insult, and the rest of them. So what the law now provides for is that anybody who uses the computer to send any message that contains pornographic materials or any message that can cause a breakdown of law and order in the country, no more. But the police and some other security agencies have been invoking the repeal provisions of that section And that is why, in celebrating democracy, the government, through the Attorney General, must educate the police and other security agencies that this law has been amended, and the question of criminalization of the freedom of expression in Nigeria can no longer be tolerated, can no longer be accepted. Secondly, in celebrating 25 years of democracy, I think one of the ministers did say that the programs of the government, look like the program of the winner of the June 12th election, Bashorem Abiola. I think the program of Abiola was captured in his manifesto, Farewell to Poverty. Can we say that today, whereby successive regimes in Nigeria, be it military or civilian, all the regimes, particularly since 1986, have implemented one policy or the other of imperialism. What is going on now in town is the religious implementation of neoliberal policies dictated by the IMF and World Bank. Whereas Chief M. Abiola, in spite of his pro-Western position, had made the point that as president of Nigeria, he would not allow the IMF and the World Bank to control Nigeria. In fact, in his characteristic style, they say, who are these young men, running the IMF to tell us what to do in our country? I think for us to celebrate June 12th mandate, the government in power has a duty to promote the happiness of the Nigerian people in line with Section 16 of the Constitution. And of course, in accordance with the manifesto of the winner of the election. And this country must fight the intervention of the Bretton Woods institutions that are prevailing on the government, that are urging the Nigerian government to multiply the suffering of the Nigerian people through the removal of subsidies from energy, from fuel, from the rest of them, and the commercialization of social services. Happily, the government this year, the president this year, that he appreciates the suffering of Nigerians, but that Nigerians should continue to exercise patience. This has been the language of the government for over 40 years. We're always told there'll be light at the end of the tunnel. But instead of things getting better for the masses of our people, things are getting tougher. And that is why the celebration of yesterday was by a tiny segment of the population, political office holders. For the majority of our people who are wallowing in poverty, there's nothing to celebrate. So next time that we are going to celebrate the June 12th day, Democracy Day, our people must be empowered. And we must start now to empower our people economically and politically, free them from detention. Allow the laws that have made that have prohibited illegal arrest and illegal detention of citizens to work.
Oh, no, let me jump in. Yeah, let me jump in quickly.
Our people are economically empowered.
Yeah, let me jump in quickly. Apart from the fact that during the military regime, you don't have a national assembly, you don't have a lawmaking body. And one of the things that are also, some of the things that are lost in the military regime, civil liberties, you can't ask for it. Dignity of human being and integrity that the law provides are not kept. issues of the freedom of speech and of expression of the mind is not also available. But some of the things that you have described tonight, that you say aching to the Tinubu government, looks like what is obtainable in the military junta. And one will imagine that the manner in which you have spoken, especially the treatment of journalists in this country under the last 1 year of President Tinubu, I'd like to know and get clarity of how you describe the civil liberty, expression of freedom of expression under this government.
Seun, there is no basis for comparison with respect for civil liberties under a neo-Tanzanese military junta and a civilian government. I mean, I can tell you, and I did say this in Kaduna 2 days ago, when we had some of the best programs line up for the Democracy Day, whereby Governor Uba Sani released about 110 prisoners. I was invited to be part of the program, and I did make the point. And speaking for myself, I was jailed several times, charged with all manners of offenses, including treasonable felony to overthrow a military dictator. But we were never convicted. And I did say that for the past 25 years, I've never been arrested or detained. So between 1987 and 1997, 10 years, I couldn't travel through the airport. I had to travel through the bush. We call it the alternative route, which people later call Nadeko route. We have been going through that route since 1987, whereas Nadeko was formed in 1994. So you can't compare. I mean, you mentioned my family on a regular basis. I was woken up in the night and taken away, sometimes for months. And there was a time my son, fast now, had to ask the mother, we're told in school that only criminal suspects are arrested. Is my father a criminal suspect? And my wife had to say, no, the government arrests two types of people, criminals and those who are fighting against injustice under military dictators and who are asking the military to leave us alone, allow democracy to be part of us. So I'm not talking about, I'm talking of excesses not permitted by law that are going on. And that is a challenge for the government to walk its talk by ensuring to the office of the Attorney General that the police and security agencies in Nigeria are not allowed to erode the rights of our people. As it is the case now, we've gone a long way to banish illegal arrests in lieu of people, arrests for civil wrongs. We've gone far. Obtaining police permit to demonstrate, we have won the battle. What we are now saying is that the government must monitor the violations of our rights. The Police Establishment Act 2020 provides that every police station in Nigeria shall have a lawyer to monitor human rights enforcement, compliance in every police station. So we need at least 5,000 lawyers to monitor human rights compliance in police stations. That has not been done. It is also stated in the Constitution, in that Police Act, that every Nigerian who is arrested, who has no lawyer, even in a police station, is entitled to demand for a lawyer, which, that will be supplied by the Legal Aid Council. So Nigerians' rights have been restored, granted by government, and improved upon by law. But we are saying, in practice, on a daily basis, massive violations of the rights of our people take place. And the government doesn't seem to appreciate that it has a duty to ensure that the rights of our people are respected. So, there's a wide gulf between civil liberties under the military and civil liberties under a civilian government. Your passport could be seized at any time. You will not be allowed to go out of town. You couldn't go to court because every decree, that had to do with the liberty of our people contain an ouster clause that the court cannot challenge anything done or purported to have been done under a decree. So there's no basis. All I'm saying is that the government must appreciate that we are operating under a civilian dispensation, and the terrorist activities or the terrorist practices of military dictators must not be allowed under a democratic dispensation. That is the issue.
All right. Let's take a breather, Mr. Falana. We'll take our first break. And when we come back, there are a lot of issues that we need to thrash out as relating to our democracy under this government, the plight of the Nigerian people. Now we do not know what the president will do in respect of the figures of the national minimum wage and what the National Assembly will eventually adopt. But we'll come back to talk more about all these issues. Join us again, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone. Welcome back to the conversation. Mr. Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, has been speaking with us right here on the program. Let's get back to the conversation. I'd like to get your view. Those who believe that there are possibilities or there is a need, an urgent one, for us to fix our structure. And some federal lawmakers are already proposing a single 6-year tenure for president and vice president, governors and deputy governors. And they're also saying there should be 2 vice presidents, one for the South, one for the North. All of these efforts is to look at our structure. You are part of the 2014 confab, and there are those who think that what we have presently is not working. What are your thoughts on those thinking?
Frankly speaking, those proposals are begging the question. And quite a number of the proponents have not addressed where we are coming from or what the challenges are. South Africa has just had an election. Quite a number of Nigerians who watched the election are challenging the type of elections we have in Nigeria. A case came up in the Supreme Court today, which is totally unnecessary. But what was the basis? That the operators of the system are not allowing the local governments to function. 19 states have imposed caretaker committees to run local governments in election systems in Nigeria. Contrary, local government councils, contrary to Section 7.1 of the Constitution that stipulates that system of local government in Nigeria shall be by democratically elected councils. Secondly, the money earmarked for the local government by virtue of Section 162 of the Constitution is being diverted. Opposition political parties no longer contest local government elections in Nigeria because the results are already known. And I'm talking of all this, in all the states, that's when they have the election. Yet, the Supreme Court in no less than 5 cases have held that no local government in Nigeria shall be run by a caretaker committee or a sole administrator. So, the guys in power are not allowing the system to work. So when they are now suggesting a 6-year term, 8, whatever, those are not the issues. Can we conduct good elections? Can we say, Ghana will hold elections in December. There are people that will tell you taking cognizance of many factors. These are the candidates that are likely to win. Can we predict the result of our elections in Nigeria? Now, we had elections last year with a lot of challenges. Have we addressed them? Those are the issues. Now, Section 70 of the Constitution provides that the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission shall fix the salaries and allowances of federal legislators. Is that what is going on in our country? Is there a provision for constituency projects in the Constitution? So these are the issues. Is padding of the budget permitted by law? Now, is there provision for the exclusion of the people in talking about dividends of democracy? What does the Constitution say? People are telling you now, we want to pay wages that we like. Where is that done? In all capitalist countries where you have a federal system of government, there must be the minimum wage. That's why it is called minimum wage. So that no employer of labor is permitted to pay a slave wage to a worker. That is just the benchmark. It does not prevent states from adding allowances according to their ability. But to say you will allow an employer of labor in Nigeria to pay 10,000 naira or 35,000 naira, as some states are proposing, it's not permitted. And again, there is a mistake. So when you are talking of a minimum wage, it does not mean general salary review. A minimum wage is meant to go up, show up the salary of the lowest paid workers. And then when you move up, the percentage will decrease. But here, once you have 100% increase in the salary of the lowest paid worker, you are now told that the salary of a permanent secretary must also be increased 100%. You can only do that if you are talking of a general salary review. And I'm sure that is why some state governments are saying we cannot pay 60,000 naira. We cannot pay even 50,000 naira. We want to pay 35,000 naira. We want to pay 40,000 naira. So these are the issues. And we must address the problems confronting our people. Problems of poverty, lack of education, lack of access to health, bad roads, preventable diseases that have rendered the lives of our people meaningless. But the members of the elite, the political class, can entertain themselves. And so we now prefer a 6-year tenure. Again, it's like talking about state police. By 1979, what happened? That the civilian government said, never again are we going to have state police. But we have local government police under the colonial regime and during the First Republic. Why do they stop it? What was put in place? And what has been put in place is not allowed to work. We do not have a federal government police. What we have is federal police, federation police, to be controlled by the president, the 36 state governors, the IG, and the chairman police council. So out of a 39-member council, the state governors have 36 members. So by their own sheer number, they should control that body. And what are the powers of the body? To administer, to supervise and organize the Nigerian police force. But because that body never meets, it doesn't perform its constitutional duties. We are now talking of state police. Those who cannot pay minimum wage are going to have state police. So you are going to arm people who will not be paid their salaries as and when due. So we have to really know where we are coming from and bring out suggestions that can improve the system, and not suggestions that will take us years, almost to the colonial era. So all those suggestions are begging the question of underdevelopment, of lack of democracy.
So, I mean, and I've had conversations on this platform, either the one you say that they're begging the question, or you don't think they're germane, but already we are seeing some coming together. There seems to be a coalition, an alliance being formed within the political class. It looks like politicians and the political elite are already getting and gearing up for the next 4 years or the next round of elections. And they are saying that they are forming a coalition. They're already having the debate over that. I know that you have also advocated at some point in the past for a formidable political force that will give Nigerians what they deserve, that will fix the plight and the frustrations of Nigeria. What do you make of, with the benefit of hindsight and the experience that you've had in past alliances and coming together of political elites? How do you think that the ruling party can be giving a competition within the political space?
Well, you know, again, this is the problem. The military dictators impose on the country a constitution. They wanted Nigeria run in their own image, you know, a powerful presidency to retain the residual powers that were hijacked from the regions or the states. And the people in power have enjoyed the status quo since 1999. So at the end of the day, only those who are excluded, who are out there, are genuinely talking about political reforms, electoral reforms. For those who are in, who prefer occasional amendment of the Constitution, occasional alterations, not a holistic review of the Constitution, with a view to having a Constitution that can take care of the problems confronting the country, that can address the problems of poverty, that can address insecurity in the country, and so on and so forth. So what you therefore have is a set of people, a political class that is so comfortable with the status quo. And when a demand for change arises, it's all about dancing around the problems without really talking of alternative. I mean, we are going to have elections in 2027, right? With the experience of last year, the members of the political class have not sat down to agree that never again are we going to have election that will be so disputed, that we have so many cases in court, the largest number of cases in the world. Not talking of the cost, the enormous cost of conducting elections in our country, of prosecuting electoral petitions in the country. So I think these are the issues. As we are moving towards 2027, we should have a government. The government should set a deadline of 9 to 12 months, that the problems that were encountered last year will be addressed, and there will be a law in place.
All right.
And of course, those who messed up the last election, what does the law say? Can we have, apart from prosecuting election cases, defending electoral election petitions, can we now put in place a mechanism for dealing with electoral offenses? And finally, can we put in place a mechanism for ensuring that all election petitions are concluded before the inauguration of the incoming government? I think these are the issues to address.
But when we come back, there seems to be some kind of alignment and realignment and perhaps disagreement in respect of the national minimum wage. Where is the living wage that the president promised? And we're looking at what figure will be right. 62, Mr. Femi Falana, our closing moment now. The national minimum wage, for what the conversation and the negotiation have gone, the route at which it's gone through in the past weeks, give us an understanding. We've seen this before, but 62,000 naira, the governors through the NGF have said, look, that figure is not reasonable because it's not practical, because they will not be, some states may just not be able to meet their obligations.
Hello?
Can you hear me, Mr. Falana?
Yeah, from the information at my disposal, and I think this is in public domain, some figure has been recommended to the president so that an executive bill can go to the National Assembly for a new minimum wage in line with Section 16, subsection 2D of the Constitution. We do not know the figure that has been recommended. But for governors that they are saying that they are not able to pay, or that, I think somebody said today, a former governor of the Central Bank, I think the governor of Anambra State, Professor Soludo, he said that Nigeria is broke. Nigeria is made broke by the system that we operate. Nigeria is made broke because the government relies heavily on the deleterious advice of the IMF and World Bank. And I'm going to appeal to the governors here to look at what is on ground. The governments of Rivers State, I think under Governor Wike, and under Governor Akwa Ibom, under Governor Emmanuel, went to court. They approached the federal head. Out of the $62 billion owed the country by 6 IOCs, international companies, which the federal government does not want to collect, we are entitled to our share of the money. The federal High Court listened to the parties and gave a judgment. This judgment was delivered by Justice Taiwo, as it then was, to the fact that out of the $62 billion won by the 3 states, Akwa Ibom, Rivers, and Bayelsa, you are entitled to your share of the money. I think over about $1.3 billion. Other state governments should also challenge the federal government to give them their share of the money. The federal government doesn't want to collect the money from the oil company. I'm also challenging state government to ensure that the $34.5 billion that has been paid by way of dividends by LNG in the last 20 years, destined for federation account, but diverted by the NNPCL, should be paid to the federation account. There are other funds, including money yanked from the federation account, about $10 billion by the Olusegun Obasanjo regime for IPP projects. Some state governments, from what I read today, are asking questions that money be paid back by the federal government, by remitted to the federation account. So the point I'm making is that the state government that are saying they have no money to pay, the money is there. All they need, including the federal government, is to muster the political will to collect and recover money.
All right. Yeah.
Either looted or withheld from the federation account. That's my position.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Falana, for all the views and the perspectives that they've shared with us tonight. Thank you so much indeed. And happy Democracy Day to you once again. Well, it was yesterday, but for those of you who spend nights and days in jail under the military, every day is Democracy Day if you are able to spend it outside of the prison. My regards to Mrs. Falana and the rest of your family. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight.
Fortunately, I didn't hear that question, Sean.
Thank you so much. It wasn't a question. It was in a farewell of the program. Thank you so much. That's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm sure Akimale. Bye-bye.